Good morning, St. Paul's. It's wonderful to be joining you today through the marvels of technology in this season of both Easter and COVID-19. And a warm welcome to anyone else joining us this morning. Spiritual seeker, skeptic, longtime follower of Jesus. Great to have you with us. This has been an extraordinary almost 2 months now. And while we don't know how long it's going to last, we do know that this is a time of suffering and pain for so many, isolation, even despair. And so it's particularly important that while we continue to be physically separated from one another, that we do stay socially connected and spiritually connected to God. I am sorry not to be with you in person this morning, and particularly sorry not to be able to confirm 10 people. Certainly something to look forward to as soon as we can. Why do we join different organizations? Sometimes it's obviously for networking or career advancement. Other times to make or keep friendships. But sociologists tell us that most often we join groups because they make us feel safe. We support a particular organization we hope will make our neighborhood, Rexdale, a better place, or we feel more secure if a group is made up of people like us. Or an organization makes us feel secure by subtly reinforcing the quiet lies we keep telling ourselves, like that gym membership that never actually gets used. Today, we hear Jesus describing himself as a good shepherd, which sounds positive until you connect the dots and realize that that makes us the sheep. We tend to think of sheep as mindless, fearful creatures who exist only to provide us with sweaters or grace our dinner table. But not so. Apparently, sheep are hard to herd, not because they're dumb and fearful, but rather because they like to be led. Apparently, you can herd cows and deers, but you need to lead sheep. Follow me, says Jesus, the Good Shepherd. Follow me, and yes, you will be safe. But I'm only making you safe so you can be brave. Some of us are new and asking searching questions about what it would mean to follow Jesus. Others of us have heard the voice of the Good Shepherd all our lives. How does the Good Shepherd keep us safe in the midst of a pandemic? Keeping us safe to make us brave. Now this is going to sound terrible, but I've never been a big fan of the Gospel of John, and I know it's many people's favorite part of the whole Bible. But I resonate with stories and action, not long metaphysical speeches. But the Bible doesn't always give me what I like. And I have learnt that God never wastes our time. And what we get this morning is the tail end of quite a nasty debate between Jesus and the religious leaders in the temple in Jerusalem. And for several chapters, they go back and forth, accusing one another and questioning each other's sanity in the ongoing controversy over who Jesus actually is. Jesus has already given them a few answers about his identity, all of which they found unsatisfactory. I am the true vine. I am the bread of life. And then this morning, I am the Good Shepherd. With the I am bit of each saying clearly meant to echo the name God uses for God's self in the Old Testament. These are outrageous claims for anyone to make. But for an observant Jew, they're unthinkable. Who does Jesus think he is? As the Good Shepherd, Jesus is claiming that he not only has the power to make us safe from sin and death, but is also make us brave to live bold lives. Safe and brave. How does the Good Shepherd make us safe? In the Judean desert at night, a shepherd would move his sheep into a crevice in the rocky hillside and would sleep in front of the crevice. in front of the only opening to get to the flock. He literally laid down his life between his flock and the wild animals that prowled the desert in search of food. Christians are the ultimate realists and are simply not willing to put our heads in the sand about the reality of the pain of sin in our lives and the world. And sin has gotten such bad press because we frequently misunderstand what it is. It is not simply the doing of bad things. It's rather when we take good things, like our family or our career, and make them ultimate things, when we put them in the place of God in our lives. One of the main characters in the movie Chariots of Fire explains why he works so hard at running the 100-yard dash for the 1924 Olympics. When each race begins, he says, "I have 10 lonely seconds to justify my existence." He looked to athletic achievement for identity and purpose as his ultimate. And when you take good things and make them ultimate, not only will we be continually disappointed in life, we also cut ourselves off from intimacy with God. A barrier builds up between us and God in our daily lives, and it's a barrier that can continue beyond. And so our deepest fear in life becomes the fear of death, made painfully real for us by COVID-19. As a woman, I'm very aware of how the cosmetics industry, for example, feeds off this deep fear of aging and death. Our competitive parenting stems from the same fear, and our consumer lifestyle does make sense if this is the one and only life we have. And this fear creates a deep anxiety in our lives because death robs us of meaning and purpose. All of this in my career or with my children? What's the point if I'm just going to die? Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pastor executed by the Nazis, said, "If you board the wrong train, it's no use running along the corridor in the other direction." On Easter Sunday, we celebrated the fact that Jesus took our sin on that cross, went down into the pit of death, and came out on the other side. A pandemic is no match for the resurrecting power of God. Jesus says, "When you follow me and let me be your good shepherd, when you board this train with me, you too can come through death and out the other side." This is such good news. The Good Shepherd does indeed make us safe from sin and death. But it's done so we can be brave. Safety from all that would destroy us is not to be undervalued. But it is only part of the new life that Jesus offers. We don't just want to survive life in lockdown, we want to thrive. We're kept safe so we can be made brave. God's grace and forgiveness, while free to us, the recipients, is always costly for the giver. God gave up his Son rather than give up on us. And it is the costly grace that God displayed on the cross. That's what can make us brave. I want to end with 2 quick examples of how that grace of God can make us brave. 1, take our family relationships, many of which are under strain in this time of lockdown. Now, if you have a moralistic approach to life, which says, just be nice people, be good citizens, that approach to life can make you a slave to the expectations of your parents or whatever it is your children want. Pragmatism, on the other hand, will see no need to adhere to family loyalty or the keeping of promises unless you're getting what you want. But knowing the grace of the Good Shepherd, this can make you brave. Because you no longer need to have parental approval as an absolute in your life. and you can stand against the psychological demands they put on you. You're also able to say no to your children and grandchildren and set healthy limits for them. You can face their pushback because you know at your deepest core that you're loved and treasured by God. You can be brave in your family relationships, neither too negative and hostile, but also not a total pushover and dependent on their approval, which won't always be there. 2, think about how we handle suffering and isolation. Moralism takes the approach of laying guilt on people. You assume you've done something wrong to deserve this. So suffering makes you feel guilty and angry. Or if you're a pragmatist, you will do all in your power to avoid suffering. You'll break promises, you'll spend huge amounts of money, you'll lie if it's necessary, whatever it takes to keep you happy. But for a follower of Christ, neither moralists nor pragmatists, God's grace allows us to be brave in the face of suffering. The Good Shepherd shows us how God rescues us through suffering, not from suffering. We can be brave since we're not devastated by guilt or trapped in anger when we do suffer, and suffering does come. And we have the emotional resources to bravely fight suffering in the world, disease, poverty, injustice, because we know how much grace we've been given by God, so we yearn to give it to others. Our frontline workers in the fight against COVID-19 are such marvelous examples of this. This morning, friends, in the midst of these strange times, we are still celebrating that God is a faithful God, willing to give God's self up rather than give up on us. Some of you are yearning to hear the voice of the Good Shepherd for the first time. Others are straining to keep hearing through all the exhaustion and isolation. Wherever you are in your spiritual journey this morning, be patient with yourself. God is still reaching out to you in these confusing days. And while we're at it, let's be patient with each other as well. You can't follow a shepherd all by yourself anyway. Christians are stuck with the flock, and everyone knows that sheep get discouraged and confused easily. But do stick with the flock, not because we're the best flock, but because the flock is where the shepherd is found, out at the front, leading the way, which makes the flock our best bet for safety as well as bravery. Let's take a brief moment of stillness and ask the Good Shepherd to draw close to you. Just where you're seated, let's pause. Amen.